Hello, I'm Frank Conkling, and this is Panda Consulting's RCS workshop. What we're going to do this time is we're going to pick up on what we covered in our last workshop, which was we're going to look at the Parcel Fabric fundamentals of it. This time we're going to dive a little bit deeper than what we did last time. So before we get started, just to let you know, there's a QR code here. Go ahead and scan the QR code. That will tell you about Panda Consulting, who we are, what we do, why we do it, and how we do it. If you're interested, please go ahead and do that and reach out and contact us if you want us to help you in any way. Secondly, if you are here live and you have any questions or comments or want to go and participate in any way, go ahead and put your requests over in the chat window. Chris is here and he will be moderating the chat window and make sure that I am aware of what's going on there. So let's go ahead and look at what we're going to do here today. Today, we're going to go and look at a little bit deeper than what we did last time. Last time I showed you the various components of the Parcel Fabric, some of the interesting things about the line feature classes. This time we're going to look a little bit more at how it works. What's the triggers for it? And then we're going to look at record-driven workflows. We're going to look at quality-driven workflows and look at the difference between the two. We're going to explore history, maybe do a couple of splits and combines, just so you can see how it works, what it's really doing. And from that, we'll just sort of see if there's any time left over from that. All right, let's actually move on. So what we have here is we have a parcel fabric. And this parcel fabric has multiple parcel types in it. It has tax parcels. It has conveyance division parcels, which are basically could be considered lots and tracks and things of that sort. It has simultaneous conveyances. These are private subdivisions. It also has in here PLSS section information. This is obviously in one of the rectangular survey system states. So each of these, again, has a current lines and current polygons and a historic lines and historic polygons on here. The parcel fabric, again, real quickly, just to go over, the parcel fabric consists of a controller object. This object goes and watches, and when in fact you do any work on anything that's part of the parcel fabric, it goes and reacts. It does something. What it's doing is it's making sure that the rules are complied with on here. And we'll explore that a little bit more. Making sure that the rules are complied with, and in everything from the topology rules to eventually the attribute rules and what they're doing. And each of the parcel types, if we go in here and look real quickly at the actual parcel types, here we go. We can go to parcel types here. We can see here's the 4 different parcel types we have. Each of these parcel types has actually its feature class for a polygon feature class and a line feature class. And then those feature classes, when they're in the table of contents, are actually separated by whether or not the retired by record has a value in it. We should look and see that if we go here and look at our tax parcels and the actual data structure of our tax parcels, that there's a couple of really important attributes in our parcel fabric. One is called created by records. When you have an active record and you do something with a tool that is parcel fabric aware, it goes and populates a value in the created by record and says that here's the global ID of the record, and it's going to populate it there. Easiest way to demonstrate this is actually do something. So I'm going to go and this, by the way, is called a heads-up display. The heads-up display is the main way that you interact with records. And I'm going to create a record. And I'm going to just call this demo 1. A record is a polygon, but it's more importantly, it is the organizing component inside the parcel fabric. And let's look and say this is just a simple little other and we create a record. When we have an active record, when one is listed in the heads-up display, everything we do that is associated with the Parcel Fabric will in fact be tagged, and it will be linked to that Parcel Fabric. So if I go in here and I make a polygon out of here, and just a simple polygon, because the polygon, the tax polygon, is one of the parcel types that's being tracked, it automatically goes and relates it to the record that I have here active. All right, so that's the first thing the Parcel Fabric object does. Parcel Fabric makes sure that things become related to one another. So the tax parcels are related to an active record. All right. In addition, the Parcel Fabric object will go and ensure that all of the rules that are part of that Parcel Fabric are enforced. So if I go here again and look at my topology on here, look at my topology and I look at the properties of that topology, I can see that the rules for my tax parcels say the endpoint must be covered by, or excuse me, the line must be covered by an endpoint, that the lines can't have dangles, and that the lines cannot self-overlap, cannot self-intersect, and the lines have to be on the boundaries of a polygon. Finally, the polygon has a rule that says there has to have lines on the boundary of a polygon. And each of these are different parcel types. When we create the parcel, we define the parcel types, and it goes and creates these rules for us. So with the Parcel Fabric, the tool, what I'm going to do is I want to invoke and say, are these rules being complied with? And that's called a build. When I do a build, it will go and analyze. In this case, it will analyze everything that is associated with my active record. So it goes through, looks at the active record and says, okay, what are the rules? The rules say that you have to have lines on the boundary. Do you have lines on the boundary? If you do not, it will build them. Rule says you have to have points on the ends of lines. If you do not have points there, it creates them. And the rules say that the polygon has to be on the boundary lines. If the polygon is not built all the way, it will go and build it for you and expand it to those lines. So let's do a build real quickly, and let's zoom in on this. And if you watch, you will see that there is a line that's going to be created for each of the boundaries, and points will be created when it's finished. And again, that's fast, but you now have points, you have lines on here. And to verify that, I can go to my heads-up display and say, well, show me everything that was created as part of this record. And it created 4 points, created 4 lines, and it created 1 parcel. And if I look, for example, at this point, it says it was created by this global ID, which is the global ID of this record. By lines, they say that it was created by the same global ID. And the tax polygon was created by the same global ID. So it goes and tracks this, and it relates them all to it. An interesting thing is that the build is additive in nature. It shows us and builds what's missing, but it doesn't go and do anything if, in fact, it's a violation of the rule. So it doesn't delete things out of here. So, for example, if I have, and I'm going to use the same record, and I'm going to go now, I'm going to create a line. Now, remember, my rule says that the line has to be on the boundary of this parcel. And this is clearly not on the boundary of the parcel. So if I were to go and do a build, it would put points on the ends of the line, which it just did, You know, matter to see if I can go and undo that, and you can see the point disappear if you're looking closely, and it actually, the point comes back again. All right, let's undo, and then here's do again. I draw the line. I then go build it, and the points come in. So the build will go and add the things that are missing, but it will not identify that, in fact, there's a violation of it. That is a different thing. That is actually a topology error. So in order to do that, I need to go in to my Edit tab and look at my error inspector. Now, again, with my error inspector, this works just the way it used to work in ArcMap, but there's additional things in here. First of all, I can tell it to just look at my map extent here, and I can say validate, and it will validate against the rules in here in my topology. And let me just say, go ahead and validate in here. And get off of here. And let's make sure for all the rules in here where it's not. I'll make sure. It's interesting that this is not working at the moment. I have another rule here, another parcel here. Why is that? Interesting. Live demos. Gotta love them. All right. So we're going to go and say, all right, that's not working. It should have told me that this was not on the boundary of here, but I can't seem to get.
Mark just said the topology layer is off.
Oh, Mark, thank you. Thank you so much.
Good call.
Good call. I turned it off for visualization. So when I go and validate this here, it should show me that there's an error here. I wonder why it's not showing me that on here. Why it's not showing it here. Oh, there you go. So here is the first error, is that it must not have dangles, meaning that in fact this is, let's go and look at the details of here. And in fact, there are fixes on here. I'm going to go and tell you that do not use the fixes on here for topology with the Parcel Fabric. If there's something missing, if it's something that you have to delete, yes, you can use these fixes. But for the most part, for example, if I were to go and say, must be covered by the boundary, the option I have is I could go in and tell it, go ahead and right click and say, I could try to extend it or snap it or trim it. The reality is none of those are going to actually fix this. The reality is it just shouldn't even be there. So I could go and say, remove this segment. All right. And when I remove the segment, I could go and do a validation, and it will then go and tell me that, yeah, this should not be an error in here at all anymore. I'm wondering why this is. This should have disappeared. All right. So that this must have dangles and such, they are not appearing at the moment. There should be no errors in here. There are no topology errors, no topology rules for the point feature class, though. So just be aware the points will stay there. You might have to go and delete them. So what I was going to tell you, and let's see if I can get this working here, is that if I move over here to this extent, say go ahead and update this. And interesting that it's not validating at all. I'm not looking at this at all. It's redisplaying it. Nothing happens here. Here's the preview. Here's the details. I don't see it here. It's still giving me these old ones. When I went and took it from show me only the selected ones to show me all records, now it goes and shows me this. So in this case, I'm sorry for that confusion, but it was not updating. So in this case, the topology rule that's being invalidated or not correct is that this polygon has to have lines on the ends of it. The boundary must be covered by lines. What I'm going to do is tell you, do not tell the topology rules to create lines, all right? Unless you are sure that you have an active record that goes with this parcel. So if I tell it to create lines right now, it will create lines that are related to this record. However, if I look, this parcel was created with a different record. So it would be creating lines that are not necessarily related to the correct record. You don't want to do that. That's an invalidation of the relationship that you want to have built. The relationship is that the parcel consists of polygons, lines, and points, all related to all the additions and subtractions that happens with that one single record. So how do we create this? One, I could tell it to go and activate this record. That's the easiest way to do it. Or I could tell it on the parcel record workflow to go and build the extent of here, and it will go and build lines and points for each individual record that it finds inside the extent. And when I tell it to revalidate, it should be revalidating, and there are no errors in here. And if I look at these lines and these points, it actually is, here's the lines. And if I look in here, I can look, here is the junk topology error. And if I look at the polygon, I can look here, and it's related to the exact same record in here. So with the Parcel Fabric and the overall view, the active record, the heads-up display, is key to watching what happens, all right? And the Parcel Fabric becomes active once you have an active record in place. What happens, so when you are, in fact, looking to go and create records of a transaction, if you have a document that you want to go and say, show me everything that's related to the edits that I made as part of this mapping effort, that's a record-driven workflow. You want to go and have an active record and let the Parcel Fabric track, and everything that's created, everything that's deleted will then become related to that record. And it's related through the created by record attribute field, or if it's been deleted, it will be related by the retired by record attribute field. So that allows you to go and actually keep track of the lineage. What happened? What did I create? What did I delete? Again, that is a record-driven workflow. It will go and do that. So if I were to go in here and say, let's take and keep track of a transaction that took this parcel and merge them together. If I have a record associated with that, a demo merge, and this is a combine or a merge. Once I have a demo merge and I have an active record here, it will now go and track it. And when I do a merge on here, the merge function will go and say, okay, so what do you want to do with this? In this case, I'm going to use the attributes of one of these. So I'm going to say, don't use a template. A template's used if you want to go and create a different type of parcel. And I'm going to tell it to put the attributes from this parcel, 03, in the new one that's created. When I do this, by the way, I'm going to turn on my historic so I can then see them. It's going to go and merge them together. It's going to merge it into 03, and it's going to go and create historic at the same time. So you can see here, it's got historic polygon was created when we took the two that we had selected and say, make them historic. And now it's got an active current merged parcel. So let's look at that. We say, let's select everything that is part of this record here. And we have got, here is the record. This is the merge. And what we have is, let's go down here. We've got the tax lines. I'll select everything associated with this. Let's make sure that these are all selectable. They look like they are all editable. All right. So we have got one new tax parcel, and that's the one that's got the global ID of our current record. We have got historic lines. These two lines are no longer needed with the merge. They are both marked as historic, and the retired by record has the value of the global ID of this record. And then we have two historic tax parcels in here. Again, they were both marked with that same global ID. So the global ID goes and relates everything together. That global ID will either be in the created by record or the retired by record. So a record-driven workflow attempts to go and track what was created and what was deleted as part of any single transaction. That transaction could be a new subdivision coming in and all the lots that are created as part of it, or a individual split or a combine within a tax parcel. Let's go and undo all of that. Let's go and undo the merge. Go back to the original one. And now let's do it without an active record. All right. What happens when we do a merge now without an active record? Let's go and take our two tax parcels again. And let's do a merge. All right. And the same thing, it will look up and say, okay, so what do you want to do? We want to go and create here. And this then says now, since this is a quality driven, no active record is set. So merging them in the same parcel type will not create historic parcels. It warns us that. So if this is now a regular ArcGIS Pro tool that's not going to interact with the Parcel Fabric controller data set. So it's going to work just as if this was a normal ArcGIS Pro feature class. So when we say keep active or keep original features, that means it's going to create three things. It's going to create these two, it's going to keep these two, and then it's going to create a new one in there. So when I go and do this, now if I go and select these, it will have my two lines. They've not been changed. They're still current. And I have 1, 2, 3 polygons now. So without an active record, or what's commonly called a quality-driven workflow, the Parcel Fabric does not get invoked. It does not go and keep track of what's created, what gets deleted, and it doesn't in any way go and help you do it. You still have to go and figure out, well, what don't I need anymore? What do I need? So again, that's simple differences between those two. If it has an active record, it's a record-driven workflow. If it does not have an active record, it will not keep track of what's going on. So normally, when we're trying to do our normal work of trying to figure out, as we're getting deeds in and we're mapping those deeds out, these will be considered record-driven workflows. We're trying to keep track of the changes that have occurred in our data. What was created, what was deleted. However, there are things that you want to do where you really don't have to do that because it's not reflective of a single transaction or a quote record, but rather it's looking at your data and saying, oh, I've got to fix this data because there's something wrong with it. So for example, let's look here. We've got a line that's got a bend in here. Maybe it was supposed to be, or maybe it wasn't. For these purposes, I'm going to say that line was wrong. It was supposed to be a straight line. And there's a tool called Align Features. And I am not going to have an active record, but I'm going to go and draw a line. I'm going to set a tolerance here, and I'm going to go and draw a line here. Let's go ahead and draw the line and say from this point, not a trace, draw a line from this point to this point, and let it go and take, let's go a little bit further out, 25 feet, and have it go in and move this corner so it's on that line. All right, I will go and have my topology on. So because I don't have an active record, we're going to demo what happens if I do have an active record. But because I'm just moving things around, this cannot be considered something that you want to track. It's just fixing something. So I'm going to go and go ahead and move these things. And you watch that line actually moved over so that it's coincident with where I drew that path. This is considered a quality-driven workflow. And the question is, did it create anything? No, it didn't. Did it delete anything? No, it didn't. So since it neither created nor deleted, it honestly doesn't matter whether I have a record active or not. And to prove that, let me go and undo the align, create and make sure that this is active, and then redo the alignment. All right, let's redo the align features. All right, and now let's go and see what is actually part of this record. And when we go and look at this, let's see what's actually been created as part of this record. It doesn't say anything is in here because there is no This is the merge record, which I merged those together. I undid those merges. There's nothing in here. Nothing new was created as a result of me moving a line. Again, I have a line here. I have an active record here. I could take a single point. Let's get off the bottom over here. Go in here and select a single point. All right. I can go in here and move that point. When I move that point, because I have topology enabled, when I move this point, waiting for my cursor to change. When I move that point, it goes and moves everything that's associated with the point, everything that's related to the point from a topology standpoint, but it doesn't necessarily create anything or delete anything. So there's nothing in here now. Still, when I say what was part of this record, nothing's been added. The Parcel Fabric and record-driven workflows only add things that are created as part of that using the tools, and adds things to the record that's been deleted, not things that have been moved, not things that have been adjusted, only things that are created and things that are deleted. All right, so let's go back here again. So I want that to hit home that in fact, the Parcel Fabric goes and keeps track, if you have an active record, of what is created and what is deleted. Not what is impacted, but what's created and what's deleted. There are certain tools in which you create things. You know, the create tools, everything that you get off of the create pane, creating polygons, creating lines, creating points. If you have an active record, they're tracked. The tools that interact with other things, such as the traverse tool, where you go and create lines, those are tracked as part of a record-driven workflow. Merges, clips, divides, those are all tracked because it's interacting and creating and modifying things in there. It's not just moving things around, it's creating new things as it's going through. Record-driven workflow. However, if we're not tracking it, if we don't care about that, we can go in here and make all kinds of changes, and it will not be associated with the Parcel Fabric. The Parcel Fabric strengths are that, in fact, it keeps track of this lineage. So let's work through this. So let's create this, let's activate this, this record. I have an active record now. I have a parcel. Let me go and split this parcel. And with this, because I have an active record, a split can be as simple as using the split tool, all right, and drawing. Now I'm allowing it to split things without, it has to be selected for me to go and split them now, but I can draw a line here. And when I draw a line, because I have an active record, it will do a couple things. It will take my existing parcel, immediately mark it historic, and take and create two new parcels of what's left with that parcel that I've split interactively. It will then go and analyze the rules and say, okay, well, did I have to create lines, or was this parcel boundary covered by a line? It was not, so it will create a line. Was that line that I created, did it have points on the end? If it did not, it creates them. So when I look at this now, well, what did this record actually do? In this case, it created 2 points. This point here and this point here. What about the lines that are associated with this record? It has this new line, and now it has this line here, which has been split in this case, this line here, this line here, and this line here. These are all now associated with this record. Well, what about this line? Is that associated with the record? No, these were not split. These were not modified in any way. So they are not part of this record. The record only tracks what was created and what was modified by that. I also have 2 new parcels as a result of this record. The reason why I'm going through this a couple of times, is to get you to understand what really is happening is the Parcel Fabric and the active record are being selective in what they are getting out of here. They're looking at things that are created, things that are deleted. So what that means is that a couple rules, for example, if I go and say, let's select this polygons that are part of this record, and I say copy lines 2, the copy lines 2 function actually allows me to go and look at this and create off of my selected records the things that I'm concerned with. Let's turn off the historic so we don't get combined here. Let's unselect this, and it's taking everything that was associated with a parcel, not the record, but everything associated with the parcel, and copying that for me. Now, when I go and build this, because it took this to build my parcel, this will now be associated with this record. So it will, when I tell it to go and reassociate this, it will go and do that. Let's do a couple more things just so you understand a little bit more of the nuances in the Parcel Fabric. So I'm going to go and draw a line here. All right. That line is now part of this record. I can use another function we haven't talked about yet called create seeds. The create seeds function, that tool allows us to go and analyze the lines that are associated with this record to determine whether or not they form closed polygons. That's all that the create seeds does, is it analyzes the lines associated with our current record, not all the other records, but our current record, and says, do I form closed polygons here? In fact, I do. There's 2 new polygons that get formed here. It does not analyze whether or not this has dangles on it, because it does have dangles on it. Doesn't analyze whether or not this has points on the ends of it. It just says the create seeds tool goes and analyzes the lines associated with the record and says, does this form a closed polygon? So if this was me mapping, I would go and say, well, I know this is in error, this is in error, let's go and fix that. And again, some of the tools I have in ArcGIS Pro are things like the extend and trim tool. And I can tell it here to automatically down here, allow me to extend and trim without actually selecting the line. And as I move my cursor over it, you see the dashed line that actually allows me to go and trim this up. All right. And here, and then here, when I move it here, it allows me to trim this line up here. So it allows me to not create topology errors as far as whether or not I have dangles, or whether I have dangles or overshoots here. What about anything else? I could tell it to go and split these lines here But the Parcel Fabric itself, the rule doesn't say that the line has to end at that point. It can be, you don't have to split lines within the Parcel Fabric anymore. I'm going to tell it to go and build this out just so it builds it. And it will show me all of my other features in here. By the way, when I do that create feature or create, excuse me, when I do the copy lines 2, it automatically invokes, when I say copy lines 2, it tells me whether or not I should show only active record. It's a very useful tool in here, in that I can say, just show me my current active record on here, and it will only show me those features that are associated with my record. Another very convenient tool is I can go and select a parcel, and using the heads-up display, I can say activate the record of that parcel, and it will determine what the object ID is, what the global ID is of the created by record, and then activate that record. And I can say, show me all the lines associated with this record. And I now have the one new point it created, which was this one, the 4 lines, and the 1 parcel associated with that one record. So records and having those associations in place is very, very helpful when you're mapping things. Again, remember that data-driven workflows basically create things, they track things that are created, track things that are deleted, but they do not track things that just get moved around. Right? When I'm doing a quality-driven workflow, quality-driven workflows, everything from moving points, redefining where corners are located, going and adjusting edges. Let's go in here and take this one line here and do a move on it. All right, I can move that. I have the option to either move that line itself, or I can move that edge using topology. All right, when I move that edge on here, it will move everything associated with that edge. When I finish this out, all right, it moved that edge. It adjusted it. That is a quality-driven workflow. Whether I had an active record or not, nothing was created, nothing was deleted. And I'm trying to go and reinforce what the difference is between these two. The record-driven workflow is for when you're mapping your data and you want to go and keep track of a transaction, keep track of what's going on. Quality-driven workflow is when you're just cleaning things up, moving them around, adjusting what's going on there. So let's go and do one more thing here. Let's look at another quality-driven workflow. So here's something we have here. We have a tool that says this is a line and this is a line, and there's a point between there. If we go and label these, we can see, in fact, let's let it label. We can see that we've got different distances and different dimensions here. We have a tool called Merge Points. Merge Points tool, and this is a Parcel Fabric tool. Record-driven and quality-driven are only Parcel Fabric tools. It will allow me to go and select these 2 points, and it will allow me to go and merge them together and tell it where I want that point to go. So in this case, I can tell it I want it to go to 1, and it will go and automatically do it there. If I told it 2, it would show me what those new lines would be. All right. So I'm going to say, go ahead and merge it to 1. It's going to merge it to 1. All right, so this is a Parcel Fabric quality-driven workflow. Let's let it redraw. There it is. It's now 1 in there. So a way to clean up, remove excessive lines in here. I'm going to go and undo this. So I'm going to say, well, what happens if I wanted to go to do this a different way? Maybe I wanted to just move that line up to here. Can I do a move? All right, let's get off of here. Let's go to a move, and let's move this, not edge, I want to move the feature. And I want to move this feature up onto that point there. All right, and it will give me a topology error saying, no, you cannot do that. Topology graph error says you're basically, it means you're going to eliminate a feature. You're going to go and delete a line if you do this. So in this case, because I wanted to move a point and I wanted to remove that line, I cannot use my standard tools. I would have to use the merge points tool to go and actually get it to do the work on there. All right. We've gone over a lot of things. Some of it, if you're just new to the Parcel Fabric, could be confusing. But I wanted to go and clear up a couple of things. One, what is it that the Parcel Fabric does? The Parcel Fabric keeps track of things that are added to or created or deleted as part of a transaction if you have an active record. If you have an active record, it signifies to the Parcel Fabric controller object, keep track of this stuff. And it will go and relate everything through that created by record or retired by record field. And it relates it to the record global ID. If you do not have that going on, this is just standard ArcGIS Pro. And it's got great tools on there, but if we want to keep track of things, we want to make sure that we have an active record. The second point is that the active record itself does not keep track of things when it's just being moved. All right. It only goes and creates things added or deleted. Okay. The next thing is that the actual build command in here, this build command only goes and adds things to your actual parcel that's being created. So let's go in here, let's create a new record. Let's demonstrate this again. The standard type of, here's my record. The standard type of workflow is create lines. And you can create these lines with Kogo and other things in here. Create lines. Check to see if these are a closed polygon by clicking on the create seeds. And you can see here that's created. By the way, that seed is a small, tiny little polygon. And then build, evaluate the rules, and look at all the features associated with this record and create anything that's missing on here. So build it out, create the polygon, expand it, take the lines, make points on them, do all of that. That's what the Parcel Fabric does as part of that build. All right. So with lines, we go and create the lines, then we go and create the seeds with a polygon. I can create the polygon, and then I already have a polygon, so I don't need to worry about the seeds, and then tell it to go and build it. It will create the lines and the points that are missing on here. All right. Hopefully I haven't confused anybody here. But Are there any questions or comments? I don't see anything in the chat window. I'll give everybody a last chance. No?
Nothing.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and end it at this then. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.